What's not to watch? They're the best at what they do, and I'm the best at what I do, and together it's like, it's on.
In case some of you wonder who the best is, they're up here on this plaque on the wall.
You sure you're ready for this?
I'll do my best.
Your best? Losers always whine about their best. Winners go home and the prom queen.
It's the best soccer show, North American Soccer Network, NASN.TV. Jason Davis, Jared Dubois with you as always. We are here. It is Wednesday. It is Thursday.
It's Thursday, man. We're going big tonight. We're going up against the shore.
Yeah, are we? I had no idea.
I'm putting my TV viewing on hold right now. I chose this over Jersey Shore, so this must be important.
It is important. We did postpone the show for a day. I forgot about that. But it kind of works out because while we could have done an excellent show last night, and I'm sure we would have, we wouldn't have known what was going to happen in the MLS draft. And at the time, you might have conceived of a world where people would actually call each other and pick up the phone and have discussions. I'll trade this pick for that guy and this pick for this pick. None of that happened. I mean, in retrospect, it was a pretty boring draft, but
good Lord,
it still happened.
Could it be more anticlimactic than what happened today?
Well, and that's the thing. We're going to get to the one trade that actually kind of was a big deal, and it had nothing to do. Well, it had something to do with next year's draft, not this year's draft. But we have Travis Clark from MLSsoccer.com coming on in the next segment to tell us about the guys that got picked and inform us a little bit about the MLS SuperDraft. So we're going to put that to the side for now. We are live. Like I said, it's Thursday, not Wednesday, but we're taking calls. 201-430-BEST is our phone number. 201-430-2378 if you need to figure out what the numbers are for the letters. And we're on Skype, Best Soccer Show. And as soon as I make myself available, we are able to take calls on Skype. So if you want to get in, if you want to talk Super Draft, we will jump into that. But we got Travis Clark coming up. And I want to start with the thing that happened on the weekend that I think it's MLS related because the guy is currently an MLS player, but it's bigger than that, and it's Thierry Henry.
You don't have to quantify it. It's straight up MLS related.
It is, but what I'm saying though is, this is it's interesting, it's odd, it's funny to see a guy, Landon Donovan and his thing. That's I think that's obviously different. That's an American player who's never really succeeded in Europe. He did it once, now he's gone back. This is Thierry Henry returning to the club where he became a legend, returning to the club where he became the Premier League's all-time leading scorer to help them.
It's a big deal.
Yeah, it's a massive. Go ahead.
It would be kind of similar to someone from the Green Bay Packers. It was a world famous quarterback coming back and playing in the NFL again, but with Green Bay.
I was thinking about this. If you were trying to draw a parallel, if you were going to come up with another instance in another sport that you could compare this to, I don't know that you could. The only thing I can come up with is if a all-time great baseball player leaves the major leagues to go play in Japan for one last payday, then
I think you just made like an 80s movies, like you just did an outline for an 80s movie.
Yeah, Mr. Baseball,
starring Tom Selleck or something.
Mr. Baseball, which I think is actually a 90s movie. But anyway, so yeah, goes to Japan and plays there for slightly less. Well, it's definitely a lesser league. And then the team that he played for in the States calls him back and says, "Well, we need you. Come back." And
it is kind of similar to what Brett Favre did, kind of similar to what Jordan did, but they didn't go back to the same team.
It's not the same thing.
It's not the same.
No, not the same.
But both of them returned after a break. Were legends in their sport. It's really kind of a unique thing. And what's so cool about it to me, obviously just as a viewer, I mean, I'm not an Arsenal supporter. I'm not a hater of them. But for me, it was a cool thing to see because it's odd. And we've said this before about other kind of things where I think we've said this about Donovan's goal, and we've said about other things. It's rare when you actually get the opportunity to see something live up to the hype. And when it does, it's pretty awesome.
Okay, see, that's the thing. Do you really think that there was a lot of expectations of success going into this? I mean,
I said hype.
Okay, hype. I guess that's true. Hype is, oh my God, look at this! Isn't this amazing? Without any real determination as to whether it's going to go well or not. Honestly,
you look up hype in the dictionary. It says Freddie Adu.
I did not know if he was going to be successful. I think Thierry Henry is a great player. I think he still has something to offer despite his age, and obviously he does. But, you just never know because he's not who he was 10 years ago. He's not that player anymore. So when he goes back to England and first of all, let's say this. That's an FA Cup goal. It's great that he scored it, and it was Leeds, right?
On, dude, really?
No, I'm just saying it's not like he scored against Manchester United. It's not like he scored against Chelsea. I'm not saying it doesn't matter. No, it's great.
I feel like he should be like Russell Crowe standing up. Are you not entertained? Maybe Harks is like the voice in his head, but
I'm not hating. I love the fact
the pass from Song was class.
No,
the
I know.
Was class. It doesn't matter who it was against. Those two things. If it was a defender that went through his legs and he's a bumbling idiot, yeah, I'd make that claim.
Okay.
But
it was fantastic. It was a fantastic finish. I do think, actually, I saw this on Twitter. I do think that pass is getting more credit than it's due. That pass was a load to handle, and the only reason Thierry Henry turned it into something is because he's Thierry Henry. And because he had an amazing first touch on that pass. That pass was a rocket. He didn't need to hit it like that.
The pass was hot, but it was into the right space.
I'll give Son that. Perfectly placed. Perfectly placed. And look, I'm not hating on Thierry Henry for scoring for Arsenal, going back and scoring for it's an amazing story. You cannot write you can't write that kind of thing. It just doesn't happen. So it's great. He's got the statue outside. That's what I want to get to.
Producer was just talking about haterade, and then here's some haterade for you. Is New York such full of haters that is there anyone in New York upset that Thierry Henry's kissing the Arsenal badge?
No, come on. You'd have to be a complete moron to have a problem with that right now. To have a problem with, based on his history with that club, you'd have to be an idiot to have a problem with that. You can say, I think Thierry Henry drifted in and out of games in MLS. I think that, he obviously had a bit of a chip on his shoulder and an attitude problem in terms of, just his head being a little too big for this league in some cases. The thing that happened in Portland, the thing that happened with Hartman down in Dallas, these are things that just, shouldn't happen. But he's an amazing player, and he's obviously still cares about playing this game. So I don't know how you hate it. My only problem is,
as an American soccer fan and as a fan of MLS, kind of the same thing I say about the Galaxy all the time, is that I dig that for one day the entire world said New York Red Bulls.
Yeah, no, I think so.
They didn't say it because New York Red Bulls did anything really, but if you're going to write about this story, if you're going to report this story, you're going to say the on loan from New York Red Bulls, the striker Thierry Henry scored for Arsenal. I mean, it's a big story, and New York played a part in it.
No, right. That's absolutely true. Now, what you have to want. Okay, I don't know what Red Bull fans were thinking when this loan went down, when this started, the chatter started, and then when it actually came to be, because I think there was some doubt as to whether it would actually happen, and then okay, now it's here. He's scored a goal. I've already seen stories that are intimating that he wants to extend it. Okay,
it's unavoidable.
Now, of course, and this is where you. Okay, let me ask you this:
But you're hearing stories that he wants to extend it, or just wondering if he will?
Well, of course, it's from him. What do you expect him to say? He says, "I love this club. I love being back. It's fantastic. Blah blah blah." It's all good things, and of course, you could draw a conclusion based on his words that when his loan is up. And there's Tottenham on the schedule.
I'm going to say the same thing about Thierry Henry I said about Landon Donovan when we talked about him coming back to Everton for a second time. This is Henry's chance to drop the mic. Drop it. You take that goal. Maybe you have a couple more here, but no matter what, he's put an exclamation point on a great career with Arsenal.
Right.
Why prolong it?
Well, okay, there is the Tottenham game that is just after he would return to the Red Bulls. So I think that they may ask, and then I don't know if that's been negotiated.
If Robbie Keane had been loaned to Tottenham, I would have enjoyed seeing both of them extend their loan.
Well, I mean, whatever. He wants to play in the London Derby, the North London Derby. So I can understand that he wants to play against Tottenham. That's fine. If I was a Red Bull fan, I would be a little nervous, both for injury, because that can happen, and for the possibility that he wants to extend it. And just look, at this point, it seems to be that, and I don't know, blame David Beckham, I guess. it has to be like written into everybody's contract that they get to go on loan if they want to with no questions. I mean, do the Red Bulls have any say over this? Does LA have any say over Donovan?
I would say they have a say over a long-term loan. I'm sure it's a short-term loan. I wouldn't be surprised if most of those are in those guys' contracts. But a long-term loin, I'd be surprised if these clubs took the position of these long-term loans being in their contract.
So if Thierry Henry, there's a reasonable chance that Thierry Henry has in his contract that when he came to New York, that it says, if I want to go back to Europe on loan during the offseason, I have free will to do that. And then I'm saying that's possible. And then if he gets to the point where he wants to extend it, then the Red Bulls have a say. Then the Red Bulls can say, nope, I'm sorry, we need you back here for training camp or for whatever they have going on, or the start of the season. I think this is great for MLS on one hand.
I think that's something that makes both parties happy. I think the player gets to go out, get a taste of their former career, keep competing at a high level, and at the same time, MLS gets more exposure for the premier players in their league, and the players comes back to their league, and after these people have seen these players and they want to keep following them, they got to watch MLS.
Is this good for MLS?
Without a doubt.
All the way across the board, no questions asked. It's good for MLS.
Except for the circumstance, if something like Omar Gonzalez happened to Thierry Henry or David Beckham or Landon Donovan or Robbie Keane, then you have that different. But we talked about it last week when it happened with Omar Gonzalez. That could happen anywhere, anytime.
Sure, but Thierry Henry probably wouldn't. I mean, he might be training with Arsenal. I don't know how full bore he would be going. He'd be training with somebody.
He's an older player, and that's a lot of the year to play.
Right. I mean, I don't know. I guess that's really what it comes down to. Injury can happen in any situation if you are playing, whether it's training or games or whatever. So I guess in that sense, you can't say, well, he should be sitting at home and not. I think it's actually kind of brilliant on MLS's part the way they handle this, because you have some of these players going to some of the biggest name clubs by letting these players go out, letting them go, just saying, hey, you know what, go. And then since we're on the topic,
marketing, Jason, it's
marketing. Sure,
they're getting their product out there to a bigger audience,
and of course,
giving them a taste. Like any drug dealer, you give them a taste, and then you reel them in
for
the addiction.
Of course, I'm one of those guys who loves the joke. It's hilarious now that England's becoming the MLS retirement league. I mean, Robbie Keane's at Villa now. That boggles my mind. I mean, it's and you know what? I think it says. Here's the thing, though. It says more. As much as I think it's a good thing for MLS, like you, for the most part, I think it says more about the state of finances in England than it does about MLS. I think it says these teams literally have no other options. They can't go out and buy the players they need to climb the table or challenge for a top 4 spot or whatever their aspirations are. They have to come to guys that have come to the States for the paycheck and the serenity, I guess, and say, hey, you're not doing anything right now. We'll pay you. Come over for 2 months. We need the help. When you're reaching down, Thierry Henry is one thing, and there's that legend aspect at Arsenal. But when you're reaching down for Robbie Keane, and he's not a terrible player, don't get me wrong, but it's Robbie Keane. It's not.
Is MLS any different than these teams right now? We hired guns for hire. We knew what we were getting when you grab Henry and Beckham and Robbie Keane. These were guns for hire.
No, absolutely.
And now the only difference is it's happening in reverse. If we're okay with it coming here, we have to be okay with them going there.
Again, it's not that I'm not okay with it. I'm just pointing out that in different times, Everton is not bringing in Landon Donovan just on a 2-month loan. In different times, Villa is not bringing in Robbie Keane on a short loan. In different times, Arsenal is buying a player to help their charge down the stretch rather than bringing back Thierry Henry, who at one point, now say what you want about the legend thing, it's all a great story, but it wasn't that long ago that people were saying Thierry Henry was washed up at Barcelona, that he was done, that there was nothing left in the tank, and that coming to MLS was really his only option. And then 3 years later, or whatever it is at this point, they say, all of a sudden, Arsenal's like, yeah, come on back. And now he scored a goal in the FA Cup, and it's all like, okay.
But doesn't it kind of make you feel good, though? Doesn't it kind of make you feel good that the league that's in your country that people harp on all the time, this is your chance to kind of rub it back in their faces?
Again, I think we've already established that MLS does not ruin players. When Beckham went to Milan and played well, we knew MLS doesn't ruin players, and that was one of those things that the snobs would say. Oh, he's playing in MLS, he can't be any good. He's got to be crap because he's playing in MLS now.
especially when he made his long return to England, and up until the point where he got injured, he was going to feature in their World Cup most likely. So it is a bit of a I want to say like it's not.
Sum up your thoughts. We've got a couple seconds here.
It's like a sweet.
It's redemption or something.
Redemption, I guess. For the people out there that are hating on MLS for the sake of hating on it.
Let's call it redemption. We're gonna take a break. When we come back, Travis Clark, MLS Soccer, to talk Super Draft. Don't go anywhere. Back on the Best Soccer Show, Jason and Jared on a Thursday night. We're going to call this a special, even though it really wasn't intended to be. We'll call it a post-Super Draft special. And we have on the line with us, I'm going to call him a draft guru. I don't know. Are you? Travis Clark from MLS Soccer. Are you a draft guru? Are you a college soccer guru?
I don't know if there's any such thing as a college soccer guru.
Well, what exactly is a guru?
I'm flattered, but I will accept your praise. How about that?
All right. So, one of your multitude of jobs has been to keep track of these college players and obviously their draft stock. And I know you were down in Florida for the Combine. We wanted to get a chance to talk to you. We didn't get a chance to talk to you. Now, after the picks, after everybody has gone out to Kansas City and chosen their guys, give me your overall impression of the draft. Did it go the way you thought it would? Any major surprises?
Honestly, the biggest surprise was that there weren't many more trades.
Zero,
any
right?
trades. You
Zero.
had the Cooper deal, but that didn't really touch this year's draft.
Yeah, it wasn't draft related, really. Though.
Well, next year, 2013
Yeah,
pick.
2013 draft. So I was expecting guys to be trading up for, maybe a Kellen Rowe or Luis Silva or, whatever, but that didn't shake out. So things just kind of rattled off. It went over really quickly, and it's kind of a nice difference than the last couple of years.
Is that a statement on the depth of the draft, Travis?
Oh, it's just a format change. You only have the 2 rounds, so
So less picks to trade means no trades.
Yeah, I guess so, and maybe it speaks to the depth. Those are sort of these existential questions that I haven't really thought about. The last couple weeks.
Wait a second.
Right now,
you haven't thought about this thing that everybody else is talking about how the draft could be losing its viability and its importance and its. I mean, have you not gotten outside of the draft enough to really think about that at the moment?
Not as much. I've been more focused on I've been spending time watching these guys play and tracking college soccer as opposed to debating the future. I've had these conversations with coaches before, and
right.
It'll continue to happen. I think for an infinite amount of time until college soccer disappears, which I don't think it will. And my 2 cents is that this country's too big, and there's not enough MLS clubs, and there probably will never be enough MLS clubs to bring in every single decent soccer player. So. Like it or not, I'm pretty sure some form of a draft, whether that's a supplemental draft of only a few rounds, something will exist just because, North American sports love their big events.
Yeah, I think that's part of it.
Travis, let's talk about those first picks in the draft. Out of the first 4 picks, 3 of them are Canada. How did Canada do, and the top 4 really kind of shake out the way you thought they were going to shake out?
Well, no, they didn't. I thought that the impact would go with Maddox.
Let's recap, Travis. Tell us who picked who in the first 4.
So the impact grabbed Andrew Wenger, this all-around, he can do anything, play any position but goalkeeper guy from Duke. Andrew Wenger is, he was the college player of the year last year, great guy, a great player, but he played as a forward. People are like, where is he going to play? Is he going to be a midfielder? Is he going to be a defender? But he's a no-nonsense, overall good player. He's in the US U23s camp, getting a good look from Caleb Porter. Number 2, Darren Maddox from Akron, went to the Whitecaps. Number 3, Kellen Rowe, another guy in the 23s camp.
Yeah, we have talked about Rowe on this show because he's
the Revolution.
He's, been in the Youth International setup, so we have talked about Rowe, and obviously he featured in the national champion. Was it national championship game? Did they make that game? I don't know.
He was in the College Cup semifinal. The Bruins lost to UNC.
There you go. That's the game.
And then number 4, Luis Silva, UC Santa Barbara, had an excellent year last fall. Good addition into the midfield. But my thing, and I wrote a piece on ESPN.com that I said the Impact were losers because, here you have this, exciting, speedy guy, and you can add him to your cornerstone when you start your franchise, and they go with the no-nonsense, simpler pick who will probably be like a defensive midfielder. And okay, I get it. Wenger is a good player. This is a typical, when I think of Jesse Marsh, I think of Bob Bradley.
Right.
So, that's kind of like the no-nonsense, like he'll be a good guy. But then I think about Darren Maddox. I think about what he could be. He's a guy who scored 21 goals in 22 games. I know it's at Akron. You're not playing the best teams. You're playing teams like Cleveland State and beating them 6-1. Okay, that's not going to necessarily be an Omar Gonzalez or LA Galaxy caliber defense. But he's exciting. He stretches the field. He's the kind of guy where you have him on your team and people will come pay to see him play. It's Andrew Wenger, great guy, great player. He can probably be a starter from day one, but it's kind of that wow factor, I guess, that you kind of want that wow factor with a number one pick, and he fell to the Whitecaps as a result, who said thank you very much.
Well, you talk about Darren Maddox and coming from Akron, and the competition may not be as stiff, but Akron has proved itself over the last short term to be a bit of a talent factory. A lot of good professionals that come out of that program. What about? Is there something that's scary, or is there potential, or is there anything in Darren Maddox that would scare off a number one pick team? Because he's being touted as perhaps the next Steve Zakuani.
Well, I think he can be, just as good, if not better than these other guys out of Akron. I guess the thing where the disconnect is when you look at players who've come from college to MLS, their first season, their attackers especially struggle. CJ Sabong had a good year, yes, but more often than not, a lot of the Rookie of the Year guys, they're your defenders, your
right.
Tim Reams, your Perry Kitchen guys. Like, it's easier for them to kind of plug in those holes, play kind of, and whereas a forward is doing a little bit of a different thing because, they've got to figure out ways behind these big defenders. They're getting smashed around a little bit more than normal. So I feel like from that perspective, you can sort of understand Montreal's approach because, Maddox, if he doesn't have an impact, having an impact, pardon the pun, if he doesn't have an impact the first year, it's
you can't avoid it. You cannot avoid the pun. It's there. It's always there. And you walk into it and you go, oh, crap.
But I feel like, he could be just as good, if not better. And if you're looking at Zakuani and what he did, he was pretty good his first year. And, Maddox up top could have paired great with, your Justin Braun, or dare I say Brian Ching even.
Yeah, well, that's but ultimately it's all kind of a crapshoot. I mean, and then one of the things.
Well,
in
and
the
that's this debate.
Right.
5 hours after, I'm writing a piece 2 hours after, less than that after the draft's over, and you never know what's going to happen. Right.
Right. Speaking of, you didn't when you said that the Montreal Impact are losers. What you meant was winners and losers determination for your ESPN piece. They came out losers, and I said this today, and I really feel. I mean, you like you said, you're writing it 2 hours after. Nobody knows yet. We have no idea, and it's going to take a year at least, and then you'll have a Rookie of the Year come out of this class. It's somewhere, and we'll determine. Oh, that guy is at least a decent professional now. We don't know long term, but this is. I said that this is. I don't know if it's the best super draft ever, but it's definitely in the top 15. That's about all you can say right now.
It's one of the 16 best drafts they've ever had.
Yeah, one of those. It's one of those. Now, let me ask you about the depth of it. I mean, okay, Wenger and Maddox and a couple of other guys, and maybe we'll get to Enzo Martinez. I got that name right.
You got it.
And a couple of other guys mixed in. But really, how far, and it doesn't have to be the top 5 guys, but I mean, overall, how many quality professionals? How about this? How many MLS All-Stars are in this draft class?
Well, if you want to go MLS All-Stars, I think that's never more than 3 or 4 guys, maybe.
Okay.
And I don't really see it being different in terms of your standout. I think, and I got the sense from coaches down there, is the consensus is that this draft is a little less on those big name kind of guys, which is kind of why I was beating the Maddox drum. But what it does have is it has more guys who can sort of fill in and will be kind of I don't want to say, they won't be standouts, but they will be decent enough, good enough to play in the league, to play heavy minutes and to, kind of be adequate, I guess. That sounds kind of lame, but, it's just kind of how it is. And when you get guys from college soccer to MLS, you never know what you're going to get. So I feel like there's a 25 to 30 window of guys who will, be able to play and be able to stay on and stick.
Travis, question for you. There's a couple of names out there that I was kind of surprised myself how far they fell in the draft. If you had to pick between the two, who are you more surprised at and where they went in the draft, Enzo Martinez or Lucky Casana?
Well, the thing about Lucky, you understand. I mean, he's from Dartmouth, so maybe not a lot of eyes are on him.
Yeah, Ivy League player.
Yeah, and not that I'm slating the Ivy League at all. Of course, I would never do that. He's just not going to have that kind of as many scouts following him. I don't feel like I actually didn't even think he would go in the first 2 rounds. Also, because you got to have a couple other factors. He's an international, so he's an international slot coming from Zimbabwe.
Right.
He's 24, so he's a little bit older in terms of his development. So I feel like he's going to be a good player. And he could certainly add another quick player of African descent to the Fire attack when you think about it. Enzo Martinez, now he's a great kid, a great player, but then he's in that mold of you're in a college attacking midfielder. Where are you going to play in MLS?
Mm-hmm.
Are you actually going to be given the number 10? Are you going to be playing in that role behind the strikers, or are you going to play out on the wings? And Enzo's a guy that kind of to fill out, find that out.
Very Mehdi Bellucci like.
Yeah, he's kind of like that. He's better than Mehdi Bellucci, I think.
It's not really the highest bar in the world.
Right. Well, the thing is, Enzo's pretty small. When I was at the combine, he's 5'6". I mean, that is not. I get it. You don't have to be big to be a soccer player, but it is MLS after all.
But if Joao Plata can have any success at all in MLS, I mean, that maybe takes a special player that small to be that.
Well, and then the other factor of that is they have to be in the right spot. So. If Enzo isn't on the right team, some team will be like, all right, Enzo, you're going to play on the left wing. And, maybe he just can't hack it out there right away. But here, I think, is the perfect situation that unfolds for him. He falls, quote unquote, to 17. He can play at Real Salt Lake because they will play the kind of style that will allow him to succeed.
Right, and they'll have the opportunity to bring him along, and he'll certainly have people from quality players to learn from in the style. I got to ask you about fits, and one of the fits that I think people are wondering about is Kellen Rowe in New England. Is that, I'm a fan of Kellen Rowe. I'd like to see him develop into a quality professional player. Should I be a little bit worried about what Jay Heaps and the Revolution might do to Kellen Rowe in the long term?
Well, obviously, I don't really have an idea because Jay Heaps never coached
That's a good
MLS
point.
before,
That's
so
a good
you're
point.
not really sure what he's going to do. What is he going to do? I think, he can succeed there because I see a guy like Benny Feilhaber, and I think of a midfield with the Feilhaber, Joseph, and Kellen Rowe, and I'm like, well, maybe that works, but I don't know how Heaps going to play. Is he going to play with a 4-3-3? Is he going to play a 4-4-2, a 4-5-1, a 4 whatever? How is he going to be used? Is Kellen going to be in that same? I think when I look at Kellen, I see a guy who might be able to stick in playing on the left hand side and kind of playing in as a more of a wide guy, but kind of a narrow wide guy that tucks in, if you know what I'm saying.
Right.
So. Again, it's hard to kind of project that because you don't really know what Heaps is going to do with New England. I feel like playing with a guy like Benny is certainly going to help Kellen. That's for sure.
Let me ask you about the international guy. Now, I know you said Lucky Casano is an international, and that helps him drop in the draft. But he's a college player who happens to be international. MLS is doing this thing now where they're bringing, and I mentioned Plata from last year. They're bringing in these younger players on loan from mostly South America, and they're internationals. And the English kids, Banton this year. Last year it was John Rooney. Yeah, what do you think MLS is trying to accomplish here? Obviously, teams are going to be hesitant to take on an international and fill up a spot if they're not sure what they're getting. And in most cases, these guys are either completely untested or they have lower league experience. I mean, they're already professionals in most cases, so it's kind of an odd fit.
Yeah, I don't really know what they're trying to do. Maybe just give coaches more options, but it just seems, I want to wait and see what happens to the supplemental draft before passing judgment because you never know. Some of those guys might end up getting picked up, but I'm pretty sure Jason Banton was at the draft and kind of have to wonder. What was going through his mind, and he's kind of like, people telling him that. Do
we feel bad for Jason Banton? I mean, he's taking this on. He doesn't know really what he's getting himself in. I mean, obviously, somebody sold him, but he made a choice. Maybe somebody made promises to him or assurances that he would get picked, and he did. I mean, the fact that John Rooney got picked last year and Jason Banton can't get picked this year says, that doesn't look good for him.
Well, here's the thing about John Rooney getting picked is that
I know it gets him it gets the Red Bulls on the wire. I understand.
Yeah. So, but I mean, Jason Bannon, he's an okay player. He seems like he really likes himself. Is for what I gathered from the combine. And he doesn't really seem like a good fit for an MLS team that wants a hardworking guy.
Right.
He has good pace. That's about it.
Right. Well, but speed is a dime a dozen in MLS at this point.
Yeah, and it's true that these international guys are there, but I'm pretty sure the status is kind of like, on the condition of you're drafted, you have a deal. Like you're not. I don't think any of these internationals are signed.
Right.
Per se with the league like the seniors are. So it's just a lot to ask of a team where your international slots are going to be taken up by players who they've scouted, have spent lots of, time, money, resources tracking down players, using their scouting networks. And then here you have MLS are just going to say, okay, here are some other guys. Do you like them? Do you want to draft them?
Right.
To take up these international slots where, a lot of these teams are looking for international slots. You want a big contributor.
It just seems like the league is trying to extend the life of the relevancy of the draft, considering the impact of the homegrown player rule and stuff like that. That's what it looks like to me. And
it's really hard to say.
They want the event in the middle of the winter. It still gets, all these guys are trending on Twitter today, and I don't think that means a whole lot. But Kellen Rowe is trending on Twitter today. Whoop-de-doo. But that means something for MLS PR wise.
Yeah, it's about connecting a player with the teams right away and giving an event to kind of display them. Because what if these guys are just showing up in New England or showing up in Toronto? It wouldn't be as fun, right? I mean, that's what the draft is about, generating hype and publicity and getting to know the players that are joining your team. Because, now you've had the combine where you've seen them, you've gotten to know a little bit, got a better sense of who they are and what they're about, or at least a little bit of a sense. And, then they're selected by the team and you can make the fanfare. And, it's not necessarily a bad thing.
Travis, before we get you out of here, a lot of people circuit this date as maybe the last time we would see some kind of resolution to the Brian Ching, Montreal Impact, Houston Dynamo debate. It didn't come through today. There was some talk out there that maybe the teams were in talks, not necessarily about that. But are you surprised nothing went down with this? And by nothing going down today, does it mean the undramatic, anticlimactic end to this story is coming?
I don't know. It's hard to say. I think I read a couple of reports out of Houston that they've tried, both sides have sort of made offers and, both coaches have talked to each other and blah, blah, blah. But it's kind of a pickle to be in, You have Ching, who's on his last legs, making a high salary. Are the Impact really going to take that on in their expansion year? But then at the same time, if you're Houston, you don't want to give up a ton for him. Maybe
Right.
he'll get done for a supplemental pick and a small allocation before Tuesday. Maybe, Houston sees how would that work? Montreal sees a guy they like and want another pick in the supplemental draft. I don't know. So I wouldn't say that it's necessarily the end of it, but preseason's around the corner, so it's going to happen sooner or later, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Travis Clark, MLSsoccer.com, and like you said, he wrote a piece for ESPN.com on the draft as well. Thank you very much for your time, Travis. We appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem, guys. Thanks for having me on. Appreciate it. Have a good day.
Talk to you later.
Good night. Yep.
I think actually talking about the Houston thing, Jared, I'm under the my guess is that Houston does not value Brian Ching as much as they would lead on. Of course, they're going to be loyal to a guy that served them well and brought them titles, but I don't think they're really.
I think it's going to end with Brian Ching retiring. I really do.
He's made noises about playing for Montreal. I don't know that he's
if
mentally
he
ready to
retires,
retire.
he can take some kind of front office job similar to like Eddie Robinson just did with Houston, and be there for the stadium opening. And be a part of that franchise.
And maybe they do a testimonial after that. They squeeze that in somehow. I don't know.
And Jesse Marsh plays in it.
I just think that Marsh picked Ching, thinking, okay, the Dynamo are not going to go into 2012 in that new stadium without that guy. And maybe we can pry out Haino or somebody like that.
I don't see much of a hole in that theory. I mean, it's a good gamble to make.
No,
I mean,
sure,
it's a business, and I see why he did it. And it might end up burning him, but I kind of applaud the fact the guy had the ball.
No, I don't have any problem with the decision because Houston made Ching available, but like I said, I think Marsh played this card, and Houston is basically, they're not interested in trading anything of significance for Brian Ching. It'd be nice if they could get him back, like Travis said, for a supplemental pick, but they are not going to go out of their way to make this happen. They're not trading away a defensive stalwart. They're not trading away a high draft pick. They're not trading away a ton of allocation money.
There's a cold war in MLS right now going on. Two people just on opposite sides staring at each other. Neither one's going to blink.
That's basically what it is. We got about a minute in this segment, so we're going to carry over a couple of topics. I want to talk a little bit about the Kenny Cooper trade to New York. That is interesting to me. It looks to me like Portland made out like bandits. Did we mention that George John's loan/buy option to West Ham is done? We've got that on the agenda. Robbie Rogers.
We got a lot of stuff to get to.
Going to Leeds with no work permit assurances. I don't know what that's all about.
I think Jaden Merritt filled people with a false sense of hope. You can just go over there with a bag and a ball, and you're going to get picked up by a team.
He never answered that question, by the way. Anyway, how he managed to pull that off. And I know that there's a topic out there that some people have been looking forward, at least anticipating my response on, and that's the new Sounders broadcaster. We'll talk about that. All right, let's take a break. It's the best soccer show, North American Soccer Network, NASN.TV. Don't go anywhere. Jason and Jared back on the Best Soccer Show, live Thursday night, January 12th, 2012.
That's correct, sir.
January 12th, 2012. And, it's
Friday the 13th.
Oh, it is? Oh, God. That explains a lot, actually. Like, just my life knew it was coming.
I know, we're both having a bad week. It can all be explained by that.
Yeah, life is complicated. But podcasting is fun. And doing it live is excellent. And nobody's calling, but I'll give the phone number again. 201-430-BEST, 201-430-2378, Best Soccer Show.
We got some chat room questions.
Okay, all right. Okay, go ahead and give me your chat room. We were talking about doing the other way around, but let's get that out of the way. Let's talk about what's going on in the chat room.
The first question we got in the chat room was regarding something we just talked about going out of the last segment. That's Kenny Cooper goes to New York. And the question was, what does this mean? This is from Wheel in the chat room here, and he says, what does this mean for the future of Juan Agudelo?
That's a very good question, and I think it could mean that Juan Agudelo is on his way out of New York. It is not.
I think one of two things. Either like you say, he's on his way out, and there's rumors that maybe that trial loan thing, trial or training he did with
Stuttgart likes him.
Yeah. Or the guy could play a big role in the Olympic team, and he's going to be out of the team for a good portion of the year.
Sure. I mean, that it could be a cover situation as much as it is a replacement situation. But then again, Agudelo wasn't a starter for New York anyway. He's never seemed to click with Hans Backe. It just hasn't. The relationship hasn't worked out. There are, I am not as worried as maybe some people are, but there are some questions about Juan's work ethic and his desire to put in the effort necessary to become fully realized as a
the bigger question is, what does it mean for Luke Rogers? Luke Rogers was the person that team ran through when he was
and they still will.
When he was playing.
I have no doubts they still will. I have no doubts that they will still run through Luke Rogers. Okay, I mean, look, I think New York got fleeced a bit in terms of what they gave up for Kenny Cooper, who is not 2008 Kenny Cooper. He scored 8 goals for Portland. That's fantastic, but he was way up and down. Lost his starting position for them. He's not Kenny Cooper from FC Dallas. So I think they gave up too much to get him. But at the same time, you've got Thierry Henry, who's on loan right now. You expect him to come back, but you're not quite sure. He's aging. You got Juan Agudelo, who's a young player that hasn't quite lived up to his potential yet. And again, rumors of not getting along with the manager. And then you've got
who does get along with that manager,
right? Luke Rogers, who like you said, is the player that they're going to run thing. He's the guy that makes them go right now, which is amazing to me that Luke Rogers is that guy.
He is the engine. He's the heart of that team.
Well,
that's
I think
so weird to say. But
I actually think Tanio and Lynn Pear, they're all important players.
Yeah,
but
I love me some Tanio.
Yeah, but Luke Rogers is he puts in so much effort, and he's a little high strung and everything else. But I think it could mean that Agudelo is going out, or he's on his way out the door. Where, I don't know. Stuttgart for $6 million is a rumor, and that is all it is, a rumor. And I'm not really one of those guys who
That's
likes to
one
spend
of a couple players that are on their way right now. We heard today that the announcement that George John's going to be joining West Ham on a loan with an option to buy. What is this, a rental? Is this a car now?
That's so odd. I mean, I guess this is what they were talking about with Omar Gonzalez. But you know, I guess it is. It's like it's rent to own situation. We're gonna take you on. We're not quite sure about you yet, so we'll take you on for a couple of months, and then if we're happy about that, we'll buy it.
Spunk. We're gonna let you hang around for a bit and see what you can do.
What's funny is that this is whenever MLS has a loan deal, this is the requirement that they have, that they always have an option to buy at the end of the loan. So West Ham is turning the tables a bit. I think John's probably gone. I mean, I don't know exactly. I heard some things about his health.
If you're Dallas, after the way he dropped off after the first one fell through, do you want him back after going to West Ham again? Is that really a situation you want? Twice a player that tried to leave you coming back?
I think he is mentally cashed out at this point. That MLS is not going to be even if it's not West Ham, MLS is not where he's going to be good anymore. He's not going to be happy here. He wants to go to Europe. He's got the passport necessary to make it happen. He doesn't have to go through the work permit situation, and let's bring that up here. Robbie Rogers apparently signing with Leeds in the championship. Hey, it's fine level for Robbie Rogers. I actually think it's a little amazing that Leeds wants Robbie Rogers.
I feel about Robbie Rogers when I see him have success like I feel about the situation. I've never seen a man do more with just good looks at his disposal. Like how do these things happen? What's going to happen when he gets older and doesn't look like a nice little like boy band like superstar?
He is a part-time model. He has a modeling page. Have you ever seen that, by the way?
Oh, he has a fashion line too, doesn't he?
He may have something like that.
That's everything I usually like in a player. Those are the things that I want in U.S. soccer. I want players to have that kind of stuff, but I also want them to be able to play. And I haven't seen Robbie Rogers play well. In the last 3 years, I think he's had 4 goals and 8 assists in 3 years.
Yeah, this is okay. Say what you want about the championship. Ramon Nunez is playing, at least last time I checked, was doing fairly well at Leeds. He's a guy MLS fans know. If Ramon Nunez can succeed at Leeds, maybe Robbie Rogers can. I mean, I have my doubts. He hasn't lived up to what he supposedly is. I mean, he's been in decline for the last couple of years, and he's only what? How old is Robbie Rogers? 26, 27 years old? I'm guessing.
That? I'm not even sure he's even that old. He's the same age as Bradley, isn't he?
Well, okay, so even younger, and it seems like he's not improving, and yet here he goes, and we don't know how he's getting a permit. But then again, Alejandro Bedoya gets a permit, Robbie Finley gets a permit. We don't know if Tim Ream is going to be getting a permit. They seem to think that's not a problem. I mean, it's just amazing. It's like the floodgates have opened up for American players, and all of a sudden, the people responsible for handing out work permits are not even applying the rules.
Yeah, it's like the 24. Work permit office is like an Oprah show right now. You get a permit. You get a permit.
Yeah.
You get a permit.
You were right, by the way. I aged Robbie Rogers by 3 years for some inexplicable reason, so I apologize for that. He's 24 years old. So again, but he hasn't made those strides. Maybe that's he feels older to me because it seems like he's just been running in place for the last 2 or 3 years, right? I mean, has he made any major strides? Have you felt like, okay, Robbie Rogers is so much better than he was when he entered the league?
I liked him more when he entered the league, to be honest with you. I thought his first couple of seasons in the league, I thought he made a really good showing for himself for the Columbus Crew, especially right around just before they won their championship.
Yeah.
And after that, I think he's kind of rested on his laurels. Honestly,
maybe that's what
I'm not saying it's intentional.
And maybe
he's still getting paid based on what he did a couple of years ago.
And maybe a new challenge is what he needs, and maybe a new change, maybe a change of scenery. Maybe
I don't wish the guy ill will. I really don't. I hope he succeeds, but
maybe
right now I just don't see what it's based on.
Yeah, maybe the soccer culture. Maybe that's just what he needs. That Robbie Rogers needs. While we are exporting American players to England at a fairly rapid clip at this point, we're also importing things from England. Jared, what are we importing from England that usually drives me pretty mental?
Accents.
Accents. Bringing in English guys to call MLS games. Look, this is, and I saw when this happened. This, for those of you that don't know, after Arlo White left Seattle, they obviously needed a replacement. They decided to replace Arlo White with another Englishman. His name is Ross Fletcher, formerly of the BBC.
So English, that name.
I believe he worked for the BBC in Derby County. If I have my details right, I might be getting more. 32 years old.
Does it make you feel any better that he's replacing a guy of similar
pedigree?
style? I mean, it's not like the Americans lost a job here.
Well,
it's tit for tat.
Let's say this: I was all ready to work up a whole rant about this. Because look, this is the one issue that I can't seem to break through on. I can't seem to let go. But I don't. Here's the thing: Casey Keller's in this booth too, right? I mean, they're adding it. Yeah. They're making this a 2-man booth. They're adding Casey Keller. I love Casey Keller. I think he's going to probably be a very, very good color commentator for MLS games in Seattle. I don't know enough about Ross Fletcher to make a judgment. He could be amazing. I mean, I think it's odd that you are not, giving. And this is the thing. I don't know what the hiring process is. The hiring process was what do you sound like? Well, that's what I'm saying. While I don't believe that the Sounders had any interest in hiring anybody with any accent other than this West, this.
We talked about it when Arlo White was on this show.
Middle country English accent.
I've listened to Vince Scully all my life. If Vince Scully stopped and they brought in someone completely different, it would kind of throw off how I view Dodger games. So maybe you bring someone in that's of the same kind of vein, and that's what your fan base is used to. I'm saying he's been there for 40 years. He's not Vince Scully, but I'm just using that as an example.
In the interest of continuity, you replace Arlo White with a guy like Arlo White. Fine. I don't expect that he'll be anywhere as good as Arlo White, but maybe he surprises everybody. I mean, that's the thing. I can recognize
you're a default hater position tonight, aren't you?
No. I can recognize that Arlo White is a fantastic broadcaster, and still have a problem with the fact that we continue to lean on England for the voices that are calling our soccer. That can still be. I can still have that issue and say Arlo White's fantastic at his job, we brought this up when we talked to him. It's just it's one of those things. That part of our culture will always be stunted because we're relying on British voices.
Yeah, even Arlo White. If you didn't hear our interview with Arlo White, obviously we're referencing it right now. Go check it out. You can find it on iTunes at nasn.tv. But even Arlo White admitted to the fact that it is something our nation has to get over at some point, and he says he doesn't feel it's that far off. But there is something to be said about
it's going to be
the same thing we talk about with the talent pool of players in this country. There is a growing. You're going to hit a growth spurt here at some point where the talent pool can't keep up, and maybe we're at that point and we're about to push through it with the announcers.
Perhaps. I mean, again, it's not like there aren't quality American voices in some places, and I mentioned John Strong, and we talk about Phil Shane all the time, and while I would love for Phil Shane to be doing some American soccer rather than just, and I know he probably loves his job.
Get Phil Shane on this show.
We need to talk to Phil Shane. It'd be nice to see him calling American soccer again, rather than just doing the La Liga games and whatever else he's doing for Gold TV. And while he's fantastic at that, it'd be, let's turn it around.
You know what I want with Phil Shane? I want that U.S. soccer show on Gold TV to come back. I dug that. I mean, it wasn't high production or anything like that, but I dug him, Ray Hudson, and who was the other guy? They used to sit around and just talk about U.S. soccer. I dug it. It was cool.
Yeah. Well, maybe we can get, we'll get on the air and we'll bring in Phil and, yeah.
I also want someone to make like a club dance hall mix with like a club music with Ray Hudson outburst put dubbed into it.
Dude, that has been done. It's been done. I will get you a link.
Point me to it then.
You know what I'll do? I'll put it on the Tumblr. I'll put it on the bestsoccershow.com blog. I'll put it up. It's somewhere. I'll find it. I know where it is. But again, I am not going to hate on Ross Fletcher because I don't know Ross Fletcher. I am going to be bothered by the fact that the default position now is to go with the English accent. That's going to continue to bother me. We're not going to ever develop American voices if we don't give those jobs, the local jobs, to American voices that exist. They are out there. British guys aren't the only ones that know how to call a soccer match. There are probably plenty of 20. This is the thing. I don't want to hate on Callum Williams either, but Sporting Kansas City hires Callum Williams, who's like 22 years old. You can't tell me there's not a 22-year-old American kid who's been playing and watching soccer his entire life that isn't capable of doing that.
As Americans, we're good enough at sports that we still play at 22.
So you just call? No, that's not necessarily true.
He's an Englishman. He probably doesn't even go outside. He's pasty.
Yeah, that's definitely what it is. That's why he's so good at that age. Anything else we're missing detail wise here? Did you have? Let's talk about the U.S. Open Cup quickly before we get out.
Okay.
The format's changing. They're making it actually an Open Cup, and all of the MLS teams are going to be involved. I think it's a 64-team total tournament now. Yeah. MLS, NASL, USL, PDL,
this is the way
everybody.
It should be.
Everybody's involved. Anybody with a, obviously there's the preliminary stuff for a lot of the amateur teams and the state tournaments. But when you get to the professional level, it's going to be everybody now. And I think the biggest thing for this tournament is that the secretive bidding process for hosting is gone. And now it's, if both teams want to host, they'll flip a coin for it, essentially. I think
I'm always a fan of more transparency in anything U.S.
Certainly.
soccer, because that's something that you and I talk about all the time, is that U.S. soccer seems to coddle a bit and lives in secrecy, somewhat like FIFA, you know?
Well,
and more transparency there is, the more opportunity is as well, because, and we talked about this a little bit before we came on the air, I don't know what the bid process is, and I don't know what the requirements are to host a U.S. Open Cup game, but I like the idea that maybe David Beckham has to play in a high school stadium somewhere.
Well, there's that. I just think it makes the tournament more legitimate, because you're not going to have teams that can go on these long homestands. DC United didn't play away from RFK on their runs for, it was like 3 or 4 years. It was a ridiculous period of time that they didn't have to go on the road for U.S. Open Cup game. And the same goes for Seattle. They're playing in that small stadium, but they got to play at home. It's the Best Soccer Show, North American Soccer Network, NASN.TV. We'll be right back to close this one out. Don't go anywhere. Jason and Jared back to close out the Best Soccer Show live on a Thursday. Moved it back a day. Lots of stuff covered in this show.
I'm feeling nostalgic, dude. I'm feeling nostalgic. I told you I read that Ready Player One book. I love that book. You guys geeks out there love the 80s and stuff. Read that book. But
you need to give out
nostalgic, so I want to play homage to the 90s right now.
If you're gonna pimp the book, you need to give out your Amazon, your code, so that when everybody buys it, you get like a couple pennies.
I bought it right on my phone.
We got a couple of emails this week. One of them was on Robbie Rogers. I didn't read it when I should have. Thank you to Jake in Minneapolis. I think we probably covered most of what he asked about. And the other email we got was from Mike Gibson, who threw out a bunch of It's More 90s stuff. What's
Mike.
More 90s? And we haven't done this in a while, and it's one of the fun things we do. So let's go ahead and do a quick rapid fire game of It's More 90s and What's More 90s. And that's not really the theme for that.
But we're going to do a quick pick your points.
Yeah, we're going to do quick pick your points. All right, here we go. Ready?
And it's relevant by the second question, which we'll get to in a second.
Whatever. EMF or Jesus Jones? These are Mike's choices. You can, these
are Mike's questions. For me, easy call. EMF.
100%.
That's the one. And I told you beforehand, I think the better question is EMF or Faith No More. But your choice on the two.
EMF is my choice on that one. Number 2, Belle Biv DeVoe or Boys to Men?
We can't play a Belle Biv DeVoe drop in the show and me not go with Belle Biv DeVoe.
Okay, but I don't know that Belle Biv DeVoe is... I guess they kind of tail end of the 80s, beginning of the 90s, but I don't know, man.
Do you reward the one-hit wonder that was so good, or do you reward the catalog of the 90s that the Boys to Men put together?
I have to go with Boys to Men. They were iconic in the 90s. They were everywhere in the 90s.
Didn't he do the Rocks of Vanity?
End of the Road. Cool. Well, yeah. Well, I don't think it was Vanity. That dude had back problems.
I think we talked about that.
Yeah. End of the Road was number 1 for like a year. It was insane how big Boys to Men were. That's easy. But
Belle Biv DeVoe taught me you never trust a big butt and a smile.
Right. There is that. There is that to be said. All right. Z Cavarici or Bugle Boy? I don't know what Z Cavarici is.
This might be West Coast things. I know exactly what he's talking about. And I know. Mike, thank you for putting this out there. Me, I was preppy, dude. I went Bugle Boy.
Okay. I know Bugle Boy. I'm going to have to go Bugle Boy because I don't know the other one. Next one, Mark Paul Gosselaar or Mario Lopez. That's impossible. They're attached at the hip.
Yeah. Zach Morris all day long.
Okay. I got to go Zach Morris as well. So Mark Paul. Disc golf or ultimate frisbee? What's the difference? Oh, ultimate
I don't
frisbee.
know. I played this stuff in the 2000s, so I'll say disc golf because I was a disc golf junkie in college.
Well, that's frolf, right? Isn't that frolf?
Oh no, where we did it, you get drunk and then do it.
Yeah, we have of course the park that was kind of in my general neighborhood where I went to high school. So I'm gonna have to go disc golf as well. I knew guys who played ultimate frisbee. I thought it was insane. I thought it was dumb. I thought that game was dumb, and we might have done it in like
hippies getting way too serious about sport
in PE in high school. But I didn't like it. And the last one, Clarissa Explains It All, or The Secret World of Alex Mack, which I don't think I know.
I have no idea what that is.
No.
What is Alex Mack?
I don't know. Clarissa wins by default, and that's pretty damn 90s.
I don't know what that one is.
It's pretty damn 90s.
I got one for you. We talked about before the show. I got one for you. I wrote for this. What's more 90s, Street Fighter 2 or Mortal Kombat?
I think by a hair, Mortal Kombat wins that battle.
I'm a Street Fighter guy. Fighter. Who is your favorite person to play with?
On Street Fighter or Mortal Kombat?
Either one.
Dude, it's been so long. What's Mortal Kombat's probably what, Scorpion, I think.
For me, M. Bison.
Okay. That's Street Fighter. Did you say Street Fighter first? I said Scorpion, and I was thinking Mortal Kombat. I don't know. I wasn't super into. I mean, I played them. I spent long nights at 12 years old.
With your youth?
No, I play. I went to a friend's house and stayed up all night and drank Mountain Dew and played video games. It wasn't like I didn't like.
All cracked out on the dew.
No, I just didn't. I didn't like identify with M. Bison or is it Ryu and Ken? I didn't.
Yes.
I
the
guess
fact you have to ask the question. You're losing points right now.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Guess.
We got to get out. One thing that was in the chat room, NJE Murray asked, talk about the USL PDL Chicago Fire premiere with 11 alumni taken today. Pretty impressive.
That's
you
impressive.
Think that they passed on Jada Merritt as well.
That's pretty impressive. Chicago Fire PDL team.
The system that dropped Jada Merritt in the process came up big today.
Yeah, in 2012. All right, so go to iTunes and do all those things and rate and review and sign up. Send us email, show@bestsoccershow.com. Go to the blog, bestsoccershow.com for that. I'm gonna put up that request, the Ray Hudson mix for Jared. All right, everybody, that'll do it. We will be back on Sunday with our regular show. Talk to you then. Bye.
Hadouken!